Most people believe that after you turn 70, life settles into a slower, almost automatic rhythm. But the truth is that many choices made at this stage still have a significant impact on your quality of life, mental health, and even how much time you have left. The problem is nobody talks about this clearly. There are quiet, seemingly harmless habits that continue to be repeated day after day without realizing the harm they're causing. The scariest thing is that these behaviors aren't new. They started decades ago, and because they're so automatic, they seem like a natural part of everyday life. But ignoring these patterns can be costly. Some can speed up aging, others lead to social isolation, and some directly affect the heart and brain. Identifying these habits is the first step in transforming what's left to be lived. And if this content helps you, please consider subscribing to the channel to continue learning how to live with more awareness and well-being. Perhaps you think you already know what you're doing wrong, but the most dangerous things aren't always what they seem. We're not just talking about eating poorly or avoiding exercise. Some of the most destructive habits are emotional in origin, subtle, and go unnoticed for years. Therefore, this video isn't about guilt, but about clarity. The idea isn't to judge your choices, but to give you an opportunity to look with fresh eyes at attitudes that may be robbing you of your vitality without you even realizing it. What's interesting is that many of these behaviors were, at some point, even encouraged by society. But time shows that what was considered normal may now be among the main factors hindering healthy aging. And even if it seems late to change, it's not. Every little change counts. And believe me, your body and mind feel the difference, even after you're past 71. Imagine carrying an invisible weight every day without knowing it's there. That's how many of these habits work. They accumulate quietly until constant fatigue, unexplained sadness, or a lack of purpose becomes part of your routine. The first of these behaviors is neglecting your own desires. Many older adults enter a kind of automatic mode, living only to please others, whether it's taking care of grandchildren, trying to keep the peace in the family, or simply avoiding being a bother. The problem is that by doing this for too long, they start to set aside their desires, hobbies, wishes, and even opinions. This undermines self-esteem and weakens their sense of self. It's as if the person slowly ceases to exist. Recovering this sense of presence is vital. Rescuing what makes you feel alive isn't selfishness, it's self-care. And even though it seems simple, breaking this habit requires courage and awareness. Another silent habit that settles in over time is giving up on learning new things. There's a limiting belief that after a certain age, the brain no longer absorbs information as well as it used to. This isn't true. Neuroscience has proven that the brain maintains its ability to adapt until the last years of life, as long as it's stimulated. When someone stops seeking new things, studying or being interested in something different, they start to stagnate. And this stagnation isn't just intellectual. It affects mood, motivation, and even the immune system. Constant learning doesn't have to be academic. It can be learning to use new technology, trying a new style of cooking, practicing a language, writing memoirs. The important thing is to keep the brain moving, curious, and active. This oxygenates thoughts and brings a renewed sense of purpose. Giving up on learning is accepting the end before its time, and it definitely doesn't have to be that way. Many also fall into the trap of isolating themselves socially, believing that they are simply giving space or avoiding bothering others. This habit, as understandable as it may seem, is extremely dangerous. Social isolation is among the main factors that accelerate cognitive and emotional decline in older adults. It's not about being surrounded by people all the time, but about maintaining meaningful connections, having someone to talk to, share ideas, laugh with, or even confide in. When the routine becomes lonely, the mind starts to create negative patterns, and the body feels it. Prolonged loneliness affects sleep, immunity, appetite, and memory. Contact with loved ones, even through video calls or simple get-togethers, can reverse this situation. Cultivating relationships is a human need at any age. Therefore, choosing to remain present in the lives of others is a powerful way to keep your own health in balance. The fourth habit, even more common than you might think, is living stuck in the past. Many spend hours remembering what was lost, what didn't work out, or harboring grudges that were never resolved. It's natural to be nostalgic and even important to acknowledge what was lived, but when the past becomes your home, the present empties out. Living dwelling on what can no longer be changed prevents you from seeing what can still be built. This doesn't mean ignoring history, but learning to reframe it, transforming pain into experience, regret into learning. What's already happened is beyond our reach, but what we do with it is entirely in our hands. The mind needs space for the new, and that space only opens up when we stop reliving the same chapters. Life after 71 can indeed bring new beginnings. But for that, it takes courage to let go of what's been left behind. Another little talked about habit, but devastating over time, is ignoring your own signs of exhaustion. Many older adults force themselves to maintain a heavy routine for fear of seeming weak or becoming a burden to others. They continue doing everything alone even when their body is begging for a break. This resistance, which may seem like a virtue, ends up being harmful. The body after 70 needs more recovery time, breaks between tasks, and quality sleep. It's not about abandoning responsibilities, but about learning to respect the real limits of the body. Denying this accumulated fatigue increases the risk of falls, cardiovascular problems, and even mental confusion. Knowing how to say no, asking for help when needed, and organizing your routine in a lighter way are acts of emotional intelligence. True strength isn't about enduring everything silently, but about knowing when it's time to slow down with wisdom and dignity. A sixth behavior, often disguised as optimism, is pretending that everything is fine when it's not. Many older adults, so as not to worry their children or family members, hide pains, fears, and even serious symptoms. They create an image of self-sufficiency that in practice prevents the necessary support from arriving. This habit, as much as it seems like a protective gesture, ends up isolating those who practice it even more. Not talking about your feelings generates emotional accumulation, anxiety, and even silent depression. Recognizing what you feel, seeking help when you need it, and having someone to talk to about your challenges isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of maturity. The generation that grew up hearing that crying is ugly or that we solve problems alone needs to understand that vulnerability in reality is a trait of courage. Talking about what's going on inside your soul can save a life, including your own. There is also one last habit, perhaps the most subtle of all: stopping dreaming. Many people believe that after 70 the big plans are already behind them, and what remains is only to maintain what has been built. But living without perspective is like walking without direction. Dreaming doesn't mean idealizing impossible things, but maintaining the desire for something that is still to come. It could be a trip, a reunion, a simple project, a new garden, anything that moves the soul and gives meaning to the days. When you lose this ability to imagine the future, time seems to slow down and the routine becomes just a countdown. Dreaming is nourishing hope. It's giving the heart one more reason to beat with enthusiasm, and no one is too old for that. Age only limits the body, never the capacity to desire something new. And as long as there is a will to dream, there will always be life to be lived. All these habits don't arise overnight. They settle in slowly, often as a form of protection. The fear of bothering, of seeming fragile, of no longer being useful. These feelings shape behavior until the person no longer realizes how much they have distanced themselves from themselves. That's why changing requires awareness. It's not enough to know that something is bad. You need to understand where it comes from and what's behind it. When a person is silent about their pains, for example, they may be carrying old traumas of rejection. When they insist on doing everything alone, they may be trying to prove their worth. Identifying these patterns is the beginning of a process of liberation, and every little change made with intention is a form of new beginning. At 71, 80, or beyond, there's always room to renew the way you live. Just look kindly at yourself and decide that it's still worth taking care of what's left. It's natural that over the course of life, many things have been left behind. Friends who have distanced themselves, passions that have faded, dreams that have been forgotten. But that doesn't mean everything is lost. The beauty of aging with awareness lies precisely in being able to look back honestly and choose what deserves to be rescued. Sometimes, a call that was never made, a letter that was never sent, an activity that gave pleasure and was abandoned, re-establishing connections, resuming healthy habits, making peace with the past. All this is possible when you realize that there is still time, and you don't need to make grand changes. One gesture a day is enough to rekindle what was dormant. Living well after 71 doesn't require perfection, it requires willpower. And willpower is born when the person allows themselves to see value in the small details of life again. Perhaps the biggest trap of all is believing that you can no longer change. This idea is dangerous because it paralyzes. It makes the person accept situations that hurt them, behaviors that weaken them, and routines that make them sick. But history shows that the greatest leaps of transformation don't have a set age to happen. How many people have moved to a new city, learned a new profession, or started painting or writing in their later years? What differentiates those who live well from those who merely survive is the willingness to continue reinventing themselves. And that doesn't require youth, it requires decision. Aging with dignity is an act of daily courage. It's waking up every day willing to be a little better, to do something different, to say yes to the new. Even with limitations, pains, or losses, it's still possible to build something meaningful. The time that remains has value, and what you do with it is what really defines your old age. Throughout life, many people have heard that they should be strong, resilient, that they can't complain. This discourse, although well-intentioned, created a generation of older adults who often silence their pain and pretend that everything is fine, even when it's not. This needs to change. Being strong isn't ignoring what hurts, it's facing what bothers you with maturity. It's having the courage to say that something isn't right, to seek support, and to understand that no one needs to handle everything alone. Life after 71 shouldn't be lived with a mask, but with authenticity. It's the ideal time to practice internal listening, respect limits, value emotions. Expressing feelings doesn't weaken, on the contrary, it relieves. And when that's done naturally, it opens space for deeper connections. Family, friends, and caregivers get closer when they feel truth in your words, and the truth always finds a way to heal what has been hidden for so long. Another essential point is learning to deal with your losses without letting them consume you. As the years go by, it's natural that loved ones pass away, abilities change, and family scenarios transform. Denying this only prolongs the suffering. Grief, whether for someone or for a phase of life, needs to be lived with honesty. But it can't become a permanent state. Each loss carries a legitimate pain, but also the chance of a new beginning. Life after 71 requires a new look at absence. It's at this moment that spirituality, faith, or even silence gains space. Respecting your own time without rushing yourself to overcome is a sign of wisdom. But it's important not to allow sadness to become your identity. You aren't just what you lost. There's still much that can be built, felt, shared. Pain needs space, but life also demands presence. Many older adults, even having lived rich experiences, end up underestimating the value that their stories have. They keep their memories as if they were ordinary things, without realizing that there is a real treasure there. Telling stories, sharing learnings, passing on what was lived isn't just an act of nostalgia, it's a gift for new generations. Grandchildren, nephews, neighbors, and even strangers can benefit deeply from what you have to say. But for that, it's necessary to recognize that your journey matters. Even the mistakes, the stumbles, the regrets, all of that can teach something to someone. Writing, recording audios, participating in conversation circles, everything is worthwhile. Knowledge that isn't shared is lost, and no one carries a whole life without having something important to offer. By valuing your own history, you also reinforce your place in the world, and that strengthens self-esteem, identity, and sense of belonging. Aging with quality requires, above all, presence in the now. Many live according to what will come or what has already passed, and forget to savor what is before their eyes. The simple breakfast, the smell of the garden, the short conversation with the neighbor. All this can be a source of joy when there is attention. The rush, even at a slow pace, still exists in thoughts. Anxiety about what might happen, fear of what is to come. But the future is uncertain at any age. What you really have is the present moment. Training the mind to anchor itself in the now is a powerful exercise. It can be through breathing, a leisurely walk, or even silent contemplation. This practice reduces stress, improves mood, and brings inner peace. Life doesn't have to be extraordinary to be happy. Often it's the small moments lived with awareness that create the most memorable and meaningful days. There are also those who believe that taking care of the body after a certain age is a lost battle. This is a misunderstanding. The body does change, but it doesn't become useless. It responds to stimuli, care, attention, light walks, stretching, a more natural diet, and hours of quality sleep make an immense difference. And it's not about aesthetics, it's about functionality. An active body favors the mind, and a healthy mind protects the body. The cycle is constant and needs to be nourished with conscious choices. No one needs to become an athlete, but they need to move. A sedentary lifestyle is treacherous. It arrives slowly, with justifications that seem sensible, until one day you realize the loss of autonomy. Prevention is always lighter than cure. Taking care of the body is a form of respect for everything it has already endured. And it's also a way of thanking it for still being here, able to walk, hug, feel, and live with freedom. Another aspect that deserves attention is the relationship with technology. Many older adults resist the use of cell phones, social media, or apps for fear of making mistakes or looking ridiculous. But this barrier isn't just technical, it's also emotional. Learning to deal with technology is more than just keeping up with the world, it's staying connected to it. Being present in the lives of grandchildren, receiving photos from those who are far away, participating in conversation groups, watching videos, listening to old songs. All this is within reach of a touch. And best of all, it can be learned with patience, curiosity, and lightness. Making mistakes is part of the process, as it was when learning to drive or use the landline years ago. The difference is that now the time seems shorter, and therefore each new skill conquered is even more valuable. Integrating technology into your routine doesn't take away your essence. It only expands the reach of your experiences and brings closer those who previously seemed distant. Another point often ignored is the impact of the words we use with ourselves. After 71, it's common for thoughts to become more critical, judgmental, and sometimes harsh. Phrases like, "I'm too old for that," or "I'm no longer good for anything," begin to repeat silently and shape the way a person sees themselves. This negative internal dialogue directly affects self-esteem, energy, and even physical health. The mind believes what you tell it. And if every day you reinforce ideas of inability, you gradually limit your own potential. Changing this pattern requires attention. You need to listen to what you say to yourself, and whenever possible, replace it with something more realistic and kind. "I'm learning. I can try another way. I still have value." These phrases, said frequently, reprogram the brain to see possibilities instead of limitations. And that changes everything in the way you live. As the years go by, it's common for spirituality to gain more space in life. And this doesn't necessarily have to be linked to religion. Spirituality can be the connection with something greater, a sense of purpose, a deeper connection with nature or with your own interior. Having moments of silence, reflection, gratitude can bring serenity even in the midst of difficulties. Many find comfort in prayers, others in silent walks, or in reading something that elevates the spirit. The important thing is to cultivate this internal space of peace. Life in its ups and downs requires more than just physical strength. It asks for emotional balance and spiritual clarity. Aging well is, in part, knowing where to find support when the world seems unstable. And this source of support often isn't outside, it's inside. Well-cultivated spirituality is a silent foundation that sustains the soul in moments when nothing else seems enough. It's essential to recognize that every choice made now has a direct impact on the next years. It doesn't matter if you are 71, 80, or 90. The time that remains is valuable and can be lived with more lightness, dignity, and joy. None of the habits mentioned here need to continue repeating themselves, but it's also not necessary to change everything at once. Small steps, taken with awareness and consistency, already transform the path. And if this video helped you reflect, please consider leaving a like or sharing it with someone who could also benefit. Sometimes, a simple piece of content is what's missing to awaken a new look at your own life. You are still here, and that, in itself, is reason enough to keep trying. Not to please anyone, but because you deserve it. You deserve to live well, to feel useful, to dream again, and to find meaning in the days that are still to come. It's never too late to truly start over. Perhaps the greatest truth that can be said about life after 71 is that it continues to be life. Not a leftover, not a predictable end, but a continuation with new possibilities. Many people look at this phase as a downward curve, when in reality it can be the most authentic moment of all. With less rush, fewer obligations, and more accumulated wisdom, there is a chance to live more truthfully than ever before. And this truth begins when you choose to abandon habits that no longer serve you. Every choice counts, even those that seem small. Exchanging criticism for understanding, silence for conversation, fear for trying. It's in everyday life that you build a new reality. And even if the body no longer responds as it used to, the heart is still capable of feeling, of loving, of being enchanted by the world. Living well at this stage isn't a prize for a few, it's a right for everyone. If you've made it this far, it's because you have within you the sincere desire to live with more awareness, and that desire is already halfway there. The rest comes with practice, persistence, and above all, with kindness towards yourself. Changing doesn't require haste, but it does require intention. And when the intention is clear, the movement begins. Abandoning bad habits is like opening space in the house. At first it seems difficult, but then it relieves. And that relief turns into freedom. Freedom to live the now without the weight of what has been, nor the fear of what may be. Life, even with its marks, can still surprise. It can still teach, enchant, and thrill. And there's no right age for that. There's only each person's time. And your time is still in progress. May this reflection follow you and transform into action, even in small steps, because every step counts. And if this content touched your heart or made you think of a loved one, please consider subscribing to the channel to continue following reflections like this. Sharing ideas like this is a way to spread care, and you can be that link in someone's life. Change starts within, but grows when it finds space to multiply. Each story of transformation inspires another. Each conscious choice ignites a new possibility. And that's what keeps life pulsing. The desire to continue learning, reinventing ourselves, and living with meaning. Thank you for having stayed until the end. May the next days be lighter, more yours, more alive. Because it's never too late to change the course of a story, and perhaps now is precisely the right time to make it happen.